All right, all right, all right. Let's get fired up here.
Maximum freedom. Read.
Stay on target.
Maximum freedom.
Stay on target.
Maximum freedom. Read Rothbard.
Hey everyone, what's up, Yeast Lords? This is the Actual Anarchy Podcast bonus edition, and we had a small problematic gender reveal wildfire that prevented my co-host Robert from being able to join us for the episode that we did. So that just released earlier today. It's episode 198 of the show. You can find the show notes more at actualanarchy.com/198. This is bonus content so that Robert is able to give his take, give his piece regarding this movie, which some people might consider a terrible movie. So we're going to fire this off right now. This is going to be, I don't know, however long. I was thinking about a half an hour, maybe a little longer. We'll see. But let's welcome back Dirty J to the show and Robert, my co-host. Welcome, gentlemen. How you doing, Robert? That good. All right, sweet. Can you hear me? Oh, you're muted, buddy. Oh, you're still muted. I can't unmute you. Your mic, it says their mic isn't connected. That's the little on-screen thing. Well, Robert works on that. Dirty J, how you been?
Oh, good. Good to see you again. And good to see you, Robert. And not hear you yet, anyway. But yeah, glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Now, one of the things that I find happens when we're doing the show is that we say stuff, a bunch of just nonsense, and then later on, I think about, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that. So I'm wondering if you had any experience like that with your appearance. I don't know if you've actually heard what you said, but have you had any reflection and things you wish you had included?
Shoot. I didn't put as much thought into it, but yeah, I mean, no, I think I couldn't really think of anything that we left out of the discussion. I think we covered the whole movie in its entirety pretty good between the different sections that we did. So.
All right, excellent. Well, that's good. That's better than what I normally do. And Robert, we can now hear you. I think I heard some mouse clicking. I'm pretty sure. Can you hear me, Robert? Nope, he left. I think it was resolved. See, this is why we do bonus content. It's because it's not good enough to be the normal content. So that's where we're at here. Now, this is this is actually being live streamed on the YouTube and on the Facebook, and also was listed on Patreon and on the show notes page at actualanarchy.com/198. Robert, I think you're here. Can you hear me?
I can now hear you. Yes, thank you, Daniel.
Okay, I can hear you. Everyone can hear you. This is Dirty J, by the way.
Hey, Dirty J.
Hey, what's up, Robert? Good to meet you finally.
Oh, likewise, sir. Good job on the episode I listened to earlier.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so Robert, I know you're superior, and you have that like
height supremacy,
dominating patriarchal.
I am a height supremacist
position.
Yes.
But yeah, if we could get just equality, uniform.
Oh, good Lord, Kami.
Equal distribution.
Commies are always crying about crap.
Camera resources here.
It's just like,
get on my level.
I hate it when other people are better than me. I know it's really terrible.
There
Can I just make like dumb comments and drool over the microphone and feel even better?
That will bring you actually to my level. So yes, I think that would help. All right, perfect. So Robert, you listened. Probably for the first time ever, you've listened to an episode of the show. So
yeah, this is the very first time I've ever listened to an episode, only because I had to. And I'm afraid we got ourselves a real The Platform situation going on here, boys.
Oh boy. All right, let's hear
You
it,
sons
Robert.
of bitches are at the top, all like fat. You're like eating all your food. I'm down here at the bottom starving because you guys already took all the good scenes. You made all the good points. You left me nothing. What am I supposed to talk about? I had all my notes. I got all these notes from the movie, and I'm sitting there and I'm like typing them out. Yeah. These are good ideas. Then I'm listening. I'm like, you sons of bitches, and I cross it off. I'm listening some more. You sons of bitches. I'm crossing this one off too. You sons of bitches. Then I get to the end of the show, and the show is over, and I'm like, yes, I actually have one thing I can actually talk about. They didn't talk about the proposition scene. And then you get to the after show, and I'm like, you motherfuckers. Why you leave me nothing? Thanks a lot, assholes. What am I doing here? I don't even know what I'm doing here.
Well, you usually have an opening salvo. You have vitriolic hate for a movie that is
And now for you guys, yes.
And so I wanted a piece of that. And then also any of those things that we touched on, you could chime in, you could add some color, you could correct me for saying the wrong thing. I know that I said time preference when I really meant time value of money, which is like a bastard cousin of time preference. It's sort of like related. So you could
think
correct
I'm
me.
going to split hairs and cut you on that distinction? No, I'm not going to do that. I didn't even notice.
Okay. What'd you think of my bastardized sports ball athletic analogy of Hess in his quest for driving away viewers and lowering his box office? Apparently he made a film after. He's made several films since this one, and the one right after this, it's available on Netflix, which I'm about to cancel, I think. But it got even less of a box office than this one. This one had $110,000. The movie that he made after this, I can't even pronounce the name of it, got $38,000 on a $10 million budget. Now,
Ouch.
so it's like the batting lineup has figured out this pitcher, right? That was my analogy that I twisted.
Well, I don't know. Do we know anything about him in terms of like he had collaborators? Because there's this a George Lucas situation where he had like better people he was working with, and then they went away, and then he can do whatever he wants, and no one calls him on any of his bullshit, and then we get the prequels.
You know, I'm not sure. I did look at Gentlemen Broncos a little bit further since we recorded the episode, and apparently the box office is so poor because they were going to do a I don't know if a wide release, but like a normal indie type movie release, and the reviews, the critics were so bad that they pulled the release. So I'm not even sure what counted as that 110,000 box office. Maybe it was like a limited local run, like in Idaho or Utah or wherever this was like popular. So that might explain that one. And I don't know if the one after this even got a theatrical. It's on Netflix now.
Okay, I will say that I generally liked your sports analogy. And I was listening to you saying your sports analogy, and you were saying how maybe the defenses had figured him out.
Yeah,
like he had this kind of quirky style that people are just kind of getting old. Like, okay, we've seen this before kind of thing. And I was like, no, you get beat up and you lose, you use your good ideas and you become an athlete that gets hammered. But then you said that and you were talking about, oh no, but then it could also be that he's an athlete and he's like Dwayne Wade and he jumps a lot and then he whatever's. And I was like, okay, so now I have nothing to say. But I generally took it to be, as a fellow artist / wannabe writer guy, that I think it's two things. One is that maybe he ran out of, some good ideas. I think that you can pitch some duds. You can have some hits and you can have some duds. You can have that magic and you can try and successfully recreate that magic. And then it just doesn't quite work and you're not exactly sure why. I think he made a really weird decision though with this movie. In Nacho Libre and Napoleon Dynamite. Napoleon Dynamite, which I love, Nacho Libre, which I despise. They at least had dynamic, interesting leads. This movie, you've got a block of wood that you can tell the story of like a fish out of water story where you kind of like expose the dichotomy of different characters by having one character be like the straight man and everybody else be like a weird, wacky character. And in the first Napoleon Dynamite and Nacho Libre, you had the main characters who were interesting and dynamic, and then they interacted with the world in a weird, interesting way. Whereas in this movie, you've got the straight man who's going through the movie, and then it relies on the other characters to be interesting and weird and wacky. But if you don't, if you're not really, you'd have to really be interested in the other characters to really pull the movie along. And I think, what's his name in Sam Rockwell, when he's on screen, I think he does a great job. He plays this weird Bronco / brain. What is his name changed to? I forget.
Brutus.
Brutus. Yeah.
Brutus or Bronco. Whenever he's on screen, it's great. He's a very dynamic, interesting character actor. He's a lot of fun to watch, and he gives it his all for as little as he actually screen time he has. But when you have this block of wood character that is the main character, it just leaves a lot of the screen time flat. And yeah, I felt not a whole lot. There were a few scenes at the end where he actually, I guess that's his arc, right? Is he's like this very, very passive, non-performing, doing anything, non-protagonist, just kind of letting everything happen to him. And then at the very, very end, he finally like grows a pair in terms of his story and punches, the Flight of the Conchords. And then he also, challenges the guy in the mansion to the fight. So, I guess that's his arc, but unfortunately it leaves a whole lot of the screen time to a whole lot of boring nothing.
Yeah.
There just weren't a whole lot of very interesting, compelling scenes. And now I do think he's a quirky filmmaker, kind of like a Paul Joseph Anderson guy. Is that his name?
P.T. Anderson?
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that guy. He's got this weird kind of style that's kind of fun and quirky. But when you train your camera on a block of wood for the majority of the runtime, you kind of get what you ask for. I don't know. It just wasn't. It was a decent enough film, and I know you guys gave it kind of middling to positive reviews. Number of battle stags, that was good. And I know you expected me to hate it.
Yes.
Now I will say that I didn't hate this movie. I didn't hate watch it. I do enjoy his kind of quirky weirdness, and I remember when I first watched it, I really enjoyed the Bronco scenes, and I still do. As weird and wild and crazy and retarded as they are, the idea of this wacky dude attacking these guys in Cyclops helmets and this little scooters that they drive around in, and they're riding around on, battle stags. I thought that was, fun. As dumb and weird as it is, it was just fun, dumb weirdness. But the rest of the movie just really fell flat for me. It didn't have anything that was continually quirky and weird and interesting happening that I really enjoyed.
But weren't every other character like unique and interesting and quirky and weird? Like, I get your point that the straight man is kind of boring, and he does get a fair amount of screen time, and that's unlike Nacho or Napoleon, where every main character is weird and they're kind of interacting with sort of more normal-ish people. Whereas this one, you kind of have this kind of normal guy and then a bunch of quirky, weird people around him.
But that requires a lot of talent in terms of the quirky, weird people around him. Like, you can usually hire one really charismatic lead actor guy to carry a movie. Mm-hmm. But if you don't do that, then you're requiring on like 15 charismatic, unique, quirky actor people to carry the movie.
An ensemble.
Which can happen when you have a film like Best in Show. You get that ensemble cast. They all know each other really well. They can all play and riff off each other and do fun stuff. But you just have to get so much more talent to do that. And I think, Jermaine Clement, he does a good enough job. But I really don't. It's just a weird idea to have your main character be so forgettable. I don't even remember his name. When you said it in the episode, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's his name."
That guy.
I was like, whatever. The faceless main character guy, which is I don't know. It's an interesting choice, but I think he fell flat. Fell flat in this one.
Yeah, and apparently they sought him out. He was in another movie with Sam Rockwell, and the director was like, "That's the guy I need for this." And I don't know if he was going for that, the change up from his prior work where he had wacky characters throughout, or the main leads were all wacky characters. And this one, he wanted somebody to play straight, and then everyone else around him kind of be weird. I think that's maybe what he's trying to go for, like a bit of a change up, to continue my sports ball analogies here.
I heard most of that. Unfortunately, I think my internet is a little bit crapping out.
Oh, you get the smoke affecting you over there?
It's very much. It's very smoky. Holy crap, is it smoky? It's way worse than yesterday, and it was terrible yesterday.
Yeah.
Visibility is way down.
Let's get your take, Ben, on anything that Robert's brought up so far. He's upset that we stole his intellectual property before we even knew what his intellectual property was even going to be in the future.
That's right. Right.
Well, yeah. Sorry about that. I'm kind of with Robert on this one. Well, a little bit. I mean, I'll admit, when I first saw the movie, I straight up hated it, but it grew on me. And like him, I kind of did enjoy the Broncos scenes myself. Not so much the plagiarized Brutus ones. Those just weirded me out. But I mean, yeah, the movie grew on me. And yeah, what Robert said, I didn't really think about that. It made sense how the main protagonist that they're kind of focusing on is the most uninteresting character in the movie, except for a couple of parts near the middle and end. So I guess that could be part of the reason I didn't take to it at first either. It's because I was trying to focus on this main character and how he was going to resolve his issue, but he was just this boring, flat, passive character that just seemed to be like, oh, whatever, just let it happen. So, I mean, yeah, he was uninteresting, but yet they tried to bring the focus on him since he's the main guy, and I kind of get what he's saying about that.
Yeah, and I would say that knowing the director and the quirkiness and how he approaches movies, maybe you kind of go into it with the expectation that this main character isn't going to be this straight-laced, kind of deadpan, boring guy. You're kind of expecting, and then it's not delivering.
Yeah,
you're expecting him to be kind of extra weird. I mean, his mom's extra weird, and Mike White, the snake guy, the big angel brother guy, he's super weird, and Hector Jimenez is super weird, and the girl's super weird. Jermaine Clement is hilariously weird, like Germanus. I loved his like lecture portions. I thought that was really fun because he's like so full of himself and just making shit up, but he has such an authoritative like presentation style that he takes himself too seriously.
The slideshow of the artwork was fantastic. Let's get this true. And then also the troll naming debate was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, he was he's saying something like, "Are you trying to tell me how to name trolls?" Or, I'm the expert. God,
you're talking to the man that wrote troll something. Okay,
right, yeah. And I love some of his quotes, like, "May the glistening chrome of the Borg Queen shed her light upon us all." Yeah,
just was that salute he did or something.
Yeah, it was something weird, like.
Yeah. He put into it, Jermaine, he's a talented, funny guy, and he put into it a lot. But I know he wasn't enough for me.
Yeah, there was another thing, and I kind of missed how having you on, Robert, because I was going to make fun of you a little bit. Not that I do that often, but
no.
Early on in the show, Dirty J, I don't know if you've heard some of our older stuff, but Robert was writing a sci-fi type novel. And he was reluctant to share any of it because you were like trying to make it better than you thought it was. Like you were still refining it. So Correct. You weren't willing to share it. And so when, let's see, it was Benji, right? He was like afraid to share his content, right? So I figured that was kind of like how you would be, Robert, with like going to a conference and you're like a sci-fi writer, but you haven't shared any of your stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I identified with the main character in that respect. And I appreciate the director trying new things and different things and seeing if it works. So I you know, for me as a perfectionist, it really is difficult to share work with other people when you know it's not good enough, when it's not good enough even for you. Although, you know, it's important though to actually just get your stuff out there, because you're never going to, you know, much like the free market is created by, you know, billions of people with using all their genius. One person isn't going to be able to see all the flaws in your own story. So it is important to get other eyeballs on it and provide some feedback, even though it's already, you know, it's flawed, and they might skip past things that you think are glaring flaws and then point out something else. You never know, but it is difficult for me personally to let something go. That's why I do this podcast, and it's all in Daniel's hands. He's the producer. I just show up. I don't edit it. I don't do anything. I just show up for my time. I talk a little bit and then I leave. And then I don't actually have any of that stress in terms of actually being responsible for the finished product. So it's I'm glad Daniel takes that off of me, because if I were the one doing it, it would probably be a whole lot of crunch time, edits and crap like that may or may not make it better. Who knows?
Right. I have a feeling that if you were the one producing and editing, that we would never have a show.
Yeah, probably.
I used to edit quite a bit. If people go back to our older stuff, it's probably not super easy to tell, but I used to go and move things around and take different bits out. And there was an episode we did with Adam Kokesh like 2 or 3 years ago, and he was all over the place. I mean, I don't know if he was like super high or whatever when he was recording with us, but he thought we were going to watch the movie together on the recording and then like make like Mystery Science Theater comments or something. But all the good stuff he said was in the pre-show stuff. We talked to him for like an hour beforehand, and he's like, "So we going to watch this movie or what?" I'm like, "Oh boy." He doesn't know what we're doing. It's like he hasn't seen it in a while or whatever. I edited the crap out of that. It took me like 8 hours. And I think it turned into a fairly coherent episode. But about a year ago, I stopped caring. And now we just do a straight take. We have the intro music like play, and we do the thing, and then the outro, and we're done. That's it. And so it's super friggin' streamlined now. Because, you know, perfect is the enemy of the good, right, Robert? That's the saying.
It's true.
We are far from perfect. And we might even be far from good, though. Dirty J likes the show. He said he's a fan. His first email said he's a fan. I have verification. And then also when we did the episode, he said he was a fan again. So there's no denying it at this point, Dirty J.
Oh, absolutely not. And I just wanted to, John, Robert, you said you were writing your own sci-fi novel. I don't know if I heard that touched on in one of the earlier episodes. I might have heard a small mention of it, but honestly, I think given that you're in the same position as the main character, Benji here, I feel like you could have learned something from that. You know, like if I was currently in the process of writing a novel or something, it'd be like, I'd be playing that stuff close to the chest and being careful who I share it with, or else somebody might hijack that shit, add anus to some names, and then put it out there in the world without right under your nose. And like, what are you going to do? You know, I mean, if you registered it with the Writers Guild or whatever, you're in the clear. But you know,
yeah, I would. I think I would. I mean, that's why a lot of times writers work in like pairs or threes or little groups and enclaves, and you just share it with the group, and you share it with trusted individuals first, and you're in a kind of a safe space, even though I hate that term, but you know, where you got like this criticism that is coming from a sense of, hey, let's try and make this better. But we're not gonna you're all influencing each other all the time, of course, but right. In the terms of this film where he just like switched some names and turned one character into a tranny, he's definitely a douchebag.
I think
but he paid the price, right?
I think you have to say trans. I got banned up on Facebook for saying
I know you did.
The other thing.
That's a sign of pride, Daniel. I don't understand.
Well, I was talking in the mechanical sense. Like, I need to take my car to the shop to get the tranny fixed.
Right.
And boom, you're off to Facebook.
Well, like you guys were talking in the pre-show, words and meanings change really, really fast these days. And you can get in trouble for being a racist, even though you were just born a little early, you know? It's stupid.
Yeah. So thanks for plugging the bonus pre-show bonus content that we
listened to the whole
for.
thing. I don't know why, but I did. The pre and the post-show content. I thought it was all good.
All worth paying for, right?
All worth paying for. Probably worth paying a lot of money for.
Way lots of money, like so much money.
Scrooge
buku
McDuck money, like Jeff Bezos money.
Yeah, redistribute those riches. So, were there any other points that we didn't discuss, or did you want to talk about like the self-defense? Because in St. Louis, that couple were defending their homes.
McCluskey's, yes.
Yeah, the McCluskey's, and they didn't fire a shot. Meanwhile, this rich guy who had propositioned the mother unwittingly, or she, you know, there's a miscommunication there. He was firing all over the place. I mean, it was ridiculous.
I know, and Benji was just peacefully protesting outside his, throwing those peaceful statues through the windows.
And the shit-covered blow darts.
Yeah. I know, right? It's outrageous. It's outrageous behavior on the homeowner's part. Well, no. I mean, I think you guys said it well. I forgot the part about the. I mean, at first he challenges them to a fight, right? He goes like, "Come out here and fight me like a man," and then he grabs the statue. Is that correct? So I think, I mean, I didn't watch it super closely. You were saying that maybe there's some miscommunication there, or there he had the impression that it was a casting couch situation, and she was under the impression that it was just strictly going to be evaluating for her artistic merits and the clothing's merits, right?
Yeah, that's how I read it. Yeah,
I kind of read it like it was. I mean, regardless of whether it was, he thought it was a casting couch situation. Still, you can understand why somebody might come in with all their clothing and whatever and take it as an insult that they are being expected to, go change into something more comfortable. We're going to have some fun. So you'd have to be really careful in that scenario doing that kind of thing and make sure that she's on board with this. I mean, yes, coming to your house with a bunch of clothing, maybe that kind of shows something that I'm willing to come to your home instead of like a neutral business place. Maybe that was her naivety, like you guys mentioned. But in terms of Benji's position, where his mom is all excited to go in there and then he propositions her and he gets upset about that. I mean, I am okay with him saying, "Come out here and fight me like a man, you son of a bitch. You would expect my mother to sleep with you for this advanced thing? Those are fighting words, and let's settle this like men." I have no problem with that. I have no problem that being the standard. I remember a couple of years ago now, actually when I first like something about the Tom Woods. It was in the Tom Woods group, and there was like a social media guy, like one of these outrage, like dick social media guys who would go out and insult like women right next to their boyfriends and like calling them trash or proposition them like, you know, to have sex with them or whatever. And there was some debate among the libertarians at the time in the thread. I remember them talking about like, you know, is it okay for this to be fighting words? Is this a NAP violation to just, you know, let's go. You want to come up you're going to insult my woman right next to me? I'm sitting right here. Are you kidding? And at the time, I remember going, I have no problem living in a libertarian society where fighting words are a real thing. It leads to a more peaceful, more respectful, you know, more courteous world, I would think, where your words have consequences. Now, is it strictly a NAP violation? Probably. If someone's just coming up and using words, because words, you know, that's like the left talking point, that words are violence. And I think that's kind of like the, you know, I don't know. I mean, they can be offensive.
You're sort of inviting confrontation with those words.
You're not just...
So it's almost contractual. It's almost like, I'm going to say this because I expect you to react to me.
Right. You're trying to provoke something from me. I don't think I'm necessarily the bad aggressor if you come up and call me a piece of shit and call my girlfriend a hoe and a slut and you fucked her and whatever, and then I'm like the aggressor if I want to punch you in the face, I don't necessarily think that's the case. So in this situation, I was full on with Benji until he threw the marble statue through the window. I think if he's perfectly fine challenging the guy, banging on the door, being like, come on here and fight like a man. Then when it escalated, I don't know if the guy was necessarily justified. You guys talked about this already, which is pissing me off. You guys taking all my good stuff. But, the fact that he just opened fire after the marble statue, I mean, maybe he's justified in doing that. I don't know. It's all kind of silly and ridiculous, the whole situation, but it's fairly real world. I mean, we got the McCluskeys, just having guns. I mean, I guess the one lady was kind of pointing it, but still.
Yeah.
And they're the big villains.
I mean, I still think that there was a miscommunication. So yeah, it might have offended Benji that his mom got kind of duped into, well, not even duped, but like maybe she misunderstood or misread the situation. Because I feel like the guy was doing something that he would normally do and with willing participants. So he didn't necessarily like do anything.
He certainly wasn't surprised, right? It was like business as usual. Oh yeah, come on in. Yeah, go change into whatever.
Right. So I don't think he expected that to be violating anyone or upsetting anyone. But that doesn't mean that it wouldn't, right? I mean, people do things all the time they don't think are going to upset someone else, and it still can happen. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's like him learning, like, okay, maybe I need to be less cavalier about this.
Yeah, a little more careful about, make sure everybody's on board with what actually is going to take place before, certain expectations are there when you actually show up.
He needs the love contract from that old Chappelle skit.
Yeah, the love contract. and it does say something that he's inviting her to his house, which has got to be a red flag. But, that doesn't necessarily guarantee any, consent for sexual activity.
No. Especially in today's climate. Now, this movie was about 10 years old. So I don't know if the world was that much different then, but I think it's weird. Like 2020 is so off the wall, like crazy. Like every month is like some new like biblical plague type situation, riot fires is like September, right? And we had murder hornets and we had race war and we had
cocaine crocodiles or something. Cocaine alligators.
Crocodiles, yeah. So I don't know what October is going to be. It's going to be some kind of October surprise, I'm sure.
Meth alligators? I forget, whatever it was. Yeah.
But back up until 2019, it seemed like the world had changed a lot. Like microaggressions were such a big thing, and like appropriation was like tantamount to, murder. So, wearing the wrong like Halloween costume was a criminal offense, all of these things. So I feel like 2009, I think when this was made or when it came out, things changed in the intervening 10 years to where that situation would be even less appropriate or less like accepted and more criminal minded or whatever, like people would have issue with it more so than back then. And you mentioned that thread in the Tom Woods group, and I don't remember it at all. But are you referring to videos where a guy will try to pick up on a girl who has a boyfriend, and he's like rolls up in a like super fancy car and like looks super rich and whatever, and if he successfully gets her to agree to leave the boyfriend and go with him, then he immediately like calls her a gold digger and is like, I fooled you, trolled you hard, whatever. Is that the kind of thing you're talking about? I've seen
I don't recall exactly the video. I remember it was on a beach in like Miami or something like that, or somewhere in Florida, where the guy would have a camera crew with him and he would just kind of go up and proposition women that are, there with their significant others. And it's definitely a dick move. And at the time I was saying, this guy would definitely be paying the dick tax. I mean, he's getting famous. He's getting some renown for this content, kind of this shock content. Maybe he's making him a name for himself. But you're also being a complete asshole and making a complete ass of yourself in the world. So it'll open some doors and it'll close a bunch of other doors, like people that wouldn't be okay with this behavior.
Yeah. Now, another thing that comes from way back, and I don't know where this is really coming from, but do you remember there was a guy who got in trouble for pretending to be like a porn recruiter?
Yeah, sure. That was in Seattle.
Yeah, and he would get girls to sleep with them or whatever, and then it turned out that he wasn't actually a porn recruiter, so then they got all upset. And I think that I ended up with, well, all he had to do was actually recruit them for porn, and everything's above board. So
right.
I think it was like fraud. Like he tricked them into the situation, but they consented based on the available knowledge that he was providing.
Exactly. I think we talked about this in a previous episode a long time ago, a couple of years ago. But yeah, he was having sex with women, I think filming it and taking all kinds of details and intimate whatever information down and photographs and stuff. And all he did was say, yeah, I'm going to pass it along to like a porn recruiter type or a porn studio or whatever. And all he had to do was like mail off the stuff to some random
actually
studio.
Do that.
That's all he had to do. And they'd be totally fine and above board. But he just didn't do that last step for some reason. Maybe he wanted his own private collection of porno or self-made porno or whatever. But yeah. But anyway, you guys were talking about the IP theft. That was a heavy theme in your episode, which is probably rightfully so. And I wanted to ask you guys if there was anything Jermaine Chevalier could have done to make his story perfectly fine. All of you had to say was as inspired by blah, 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 blah. Because like you guys were talking about, books almost never get remade. Sometimes, but rarely. But video games get remade, movies get remade, and songs get remade constantly. But you always seem to know the line, the lineage of the story. And that's all it's required, right? You don't need to, as long as you know the original source material is from some other person, then you're perfectly fine with this new material. But like you said in the film, since it was like a big controversy that he had stolen it and not credited it to the original author, it had actually, Streisand affected the sales of the new work and actually made a name for the new guy. So is that, you think, is all that's required? Or is there something else that Chevalier should have done?
Well, I think given how what the kind of person Benji seemed to be, I think all Chevalier had to do was approach Benji, who is a huge fan of his, and be like, "Hey, I really love your story. Like, I want to pay you for it, then and credit you with it. Put some kind of credit in it and make it into a movie, and have your name on this big work, via me." And yeah, Benji would have gotten a slice of the pie. He would have gotten to acknowledgement and got to work with his favorite author and everything. And I think just Chevalier going up to him and being like, "Hey, I love your story. You want to put it in my hands?" I think Benji would have been like, "Yeah, my favorite author ever, like taking one of my stories and putting my name in a credit and everything." And like, I think he would have been stoked about that. And the whole situation would have been resolved, I think.
Yeah, there is a big precedent with that kind of thing happening with successful musicians creating record studios. Like, would they want to work with some new talent and then they'll sign them to their new label and like help them produce their new record, or authors who will just start their own publishing houses and then, "Hey, I want to work with you," or "I think you're really good. Here, I'll sign you to my new publishing house and we'll produce your stuff." That's something that happens all the time, especially with older, more established. Then there's also the option of who's it, like James Patterson? I think it's James Patterson, who will like write out an idea for a story, and he'll like farm out the actual writing to other writers that he enjoys. It'll come out under his name, but it's like he didn't actually write the whole thing, but it's consensual. It's a contract. The writers all understand what they're getting into.
So it's like
he pays them very well.
Like a ghostwriter situation. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's all kinds of different ways. Yeah, you're right. That Chevalier could have interacted with Benji in an above board way that would have also still benefited him greatly. Right.
Yeah. Or shifted into like an agent role, something like that. Yeah, and what did you think of my interpretation of the Writers Guild being a free market solution to the problem of stealing the work? Because it's like a third party, you can arbitrate and indicate, okay, we're a trusted, verifiable source that this story originated on this date, which this is the first user, or this is the first person who implemented it. Now, if Chevalier had stolen it and then submitted it, then I guess that wouldn't have worked. But it is a bit of a market solution, right?
Yeah, no, that was my big takeaway from the film that I wanted to praise the film for, was that they didn't just run to this date and there wasn't some big trial at the end where he's found guilty of plagiarism or blah, blah, blah. It was, hey, there's this independent third party that kind of just serves as a cataloging of intellectual works. And then once it's revealed that Chevalier is a fraud, then it's public shaming that comes to the rescue and solves all the problems.
Yeah. I was kind of looking for him selling the idea for Hector Jimenez's character to make a movie out of it, to that being the saving grace, to that being no, Chevalier, you can't have published this book because I already sold this story to this guy. So you're a fraud, and this is how we expose it, because this movie got created before your novel came out or unrelated to the novel.
Are you trying to make the movie better? Because that would actually tie in the movie better. Because otherwise there's no real reason for him to have also sold the story to the movie maker guy, other than to have some weird, quirky characters on screen.
Right.
Because it doesn't tie in at all to the finale.
Just the idea of, I've sold the idea, and then how much can they change it, and how much influence can I then have on those changes? Because he walked away from the movie because they were changing it so much. But they had bought the idea, and then it's sort of like you were saying earlier, different people's perspectives are going to take it in different directions and potentially improve it.
Yeah, especially when you're adapting it to a new format, like a new media. Like if you were to make a comic book out of it, you could probably get it down, scene for scene for the most part, but you're still getting rid of all kinds of internal monologues and different things like that. Or if you're making a song out of it, it's going to be totally different. Or there's a video game could be any number of ways, but you're just adapting the work to a different media. It's going to be wildly different. You can't expect the movie to be exactly the same as the novel. That's just ridiculous. And nor would you want it to be. If you want it line for line in the movie, God, no one would watch that. Nobody. It would be like 12 hours long. There'd be all kinds of internal dialogue. It'd be atrocious.
Right. And I guess the other thing he could have done, and maybe this is a learning experience because this was the first time that he had sold a work. He could have learned from that and been like, okay, next time I'm going to sell the rights or the story with the contractual, I still have creative control over what the eventual movie is.
He would get less money though.
Sure. Yeah. But he wants to still retain some artistic control of the story, like the finished result. He could sell it that way. I did think that Donahoe, that was his name, Jimenez's character, he defrauded Benji with the post-dated check.
Yes, I agreed with that when you said that in the show. Yeah, for sure. Although it's kind of on Benji to pay attention to how he's being paid. If someone hands him a post-dated check, it's kind of on you, but it's also a bit of a fraud if you don't mention that you're going to be paid. Oh yeah, by the way, you're going to be paid in a year. Because you might as well say it. He's going to find out real quick.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you mention that?
Well, I think that would nullify the deal, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You're not getting paid for another year unless it's part of the original understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, because I'm sure Benji was under the impression that he would be getting paid $500 today. And if you're not getting paid $500 today, then that kind of does nullify the deal.
Oh, you know what? We could have made this movie even better if him selling the story to the movie would have predated the novel coming out, but because the check was post-dated, it fucks him over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have been a good point.
Yeah, that date on that check might have been proof enough right there.
Making that movie better. I like it, Daniel.
So if you're hearing us, Hess, Gentlemen Broncos 2.
There it is, the remake.
Gentlemen Broncos 2, the video game.
Yeah.
Imagine flying around on one of those battle stags, blowing things up with missiles. I mean, that'd be so much fun, wouldn't it?
I almost want to see the Bronco movie, just the Bronco part, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, it's. I mean, I don't know what the plot actually was, and what yeast had to do with anything, but you know, it's good. It was at least fun.
Yeah. Now, I did see that there was some reviewers who really liked this, and they were saying that there's a whole lot of like religious metaphor going on in this. Now, I would need to rewatch this and maybe brush up on some religion to like get that, but apparently the Hesses are Latter-day Saints folks, and there's like these themes in a lot of these movies, and the one that came out after this is even more so. It's actually explicitly about a guy who like looks for artifacts, like archaeological artifacts that verify stories in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So I might actually watch that one just for the hell of it, and just see if it's worth talking about, and maybe we can come back and do another Hess film, one they made even less money than this one.
I wonder if he's just like begging groceries somewhere. If he can't make a movie, no one will give him $1 anymore. He's got to just be doing some 9 to 5.
Well, he had Rockwell in that one, and also Owen Wilson and a few other like.
But who's going to invest money with him if he continually lose millions and millions of dollars?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I mean, he might be fun to work with, and people like being in his movies, and they'll be in his movies for very little money. They'll just work for scale or something because they just like hanging out with the guy. But if you can't actually get seats in, butts in seats, then your career's kind of over.
Yeah, I feel like after the first movie, if people are like working for peanuts and everything like that, then that's fine. It's kind of like what happened with the Clerks movies. The original Clerks, wasn't it just I can't think of his name, the director and a bunch of his buddies,
Kevin Smith,
Kevin Smith, and they just rented out like the convenience store he worked at that his boss let him, and it was like really. Then you got like Clerks 2 and all the Jay and Silent Bob movies, like huge successes after that. But Jared Hess, I don't know, it just seems like he's going the opposite direction.
Maybe he'll have a revival in 10 years when his movies get nostalgic, or whatever. But I don't know. I did appreciate that he put that like gun store right across from the dress store. That was nice.
Yeah.
Like, if only that was how you could do it. Just walk into a mall and just grab a fucking rifle right up the wall. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, see, I knew I wanted you on here for a reason, Robert. Yeah, that was a point.
The one thing you didn't talk about. The one thing you left me. Thanks a lot.
The scraps at our table.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, do you guys have any other final comments before we get Robert's stag rating on this one?
Yeah. You guys have just murdered all my stuff. Just everything. I got nothing left.
No, I feel bad.
We got about an hour of bonus content out of this. I mean, this is a 90-minute movie. The episode that Dirty J and I did was almost 90 minutes. And now we've done another hour. So we've done more talking about this movie than the movie is.
No, you guys did a great job. I just wish I could have been there. You guys did a fantastic job. You didn't need me. So it was great.
Yeah, we still missed you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about Dan, but
yeah, speak for yourself, buddy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No, I think my style of thinking is so like muddled and all over the place that I need somebody to bounce off of, and Robert usually has a really good take. He has a nice way of presenting like the overall arc of the story.
Compliments. I can't handle it. Okay.
Well, it grounds me. It grounds me. So
okay.
Yeah, I need you, buddy.
Okay.
And I like having guests too. So that way I have to save even less.
Sure. Yeah. Spread the load.
That's right.
Yeah.
Equal work for equal pay. We're all getting paid nothing. So it's perfect.
Yeah. Perfect,
anyway,
Daniel. We're all equal.
Let's get your final summary and review and your Battle Stags rating there, Robert.
Okay. Well, as I recall, Dirty J gave it a 5 battle stags, and Daniel gave it a 7 battle stags. And you expected me to give it like a 2.5.
Yes.
I can't possibly give it that low. Even though all its flaws, it still led to an interesting discussion. It's still quirky and fun, even though it just has, a dead fish for a lead. It's, he's got some good ideas, this Hess guy. I do enjoy his work. If he could find an audience for, I don't know, or recreate the magic of his earlier stuff, I would be interested in seeing it. This is probably his second best movie. I don't remember what I rated Nacho Libre. I really don't. I remember I hated that piece of crap. I like Jack Black, but in that film, even though it had a dynamic, interesting lead, for whatever reason, I remember the plot was like a nothing plot. He really struggles with plot, which is okay. Everyone's got their blind spots. Everyone's got their weaknesses in terms of writing. But it isn't a very compelling. I remember Nacho Libre having like nothing for a compelling narrative. Like he was like earning money for the church or something, kind of maybe a little bit by wrestling or something. So at least maybe that was like decent. But I don't know. I'm struggling to remember exactly what happened in that film. This film, though, it's got, if it just had a dynamic, interesting lead that made decisions and made interesting decisions and solved problems in an interesting way, I would rate it much, much higher. I think it'd be way better. You got Jermaine Clement, who is a super talent that brings so much every time he's on screen. I mean, from the original Flight of the Conchords to even Rio. I mean, whenever he's to Things We Do in the Shadows to, I mean, whatever he's in, he's just super funny and dynamic and interesting. But then you got this weird straight man, and it's okay to have a straight man as a lead for the most part if he has kind of an interesting take on the world, and there's a reason why he's a straight man. I'm thinking of the original like Odd Couple show, where at least you had somebody who was stiff and proper and clean and cleansing this, but there's like a character to him. This guy, like, it really doesn't have anything in terms of character to him. He's just so passive, and he just goes along with whatever everybody else is doing. He's not really highlighting the differences between them. He's more just a nothing. Like nothing's bouncing off of him. It's just being absorbed into this black hole. And that's where I think it falls down. You can have a straight man, but you got to have a weird guy bounce off him and actually play with him and actually show that difference. But if he's just having people be weird at him and he's not even reacting to it in his straight man way, it's nothing. It's just, they're just being weird at him and he's just sitting there not reacting at all, which is just weird. It didn't work at all. And luckily Sam Rockwell's fantastic and Jermaine Clement. If it weren't for them, this movie would be a toilet burger. This thing is, I want to split the difference. When I originally thought of it, I said this is a movie as a 6 because of the weird quirkiness and the fun, the light fun with the Rockwell scenes and stuff. Then I was kind of like thinking more like Dirty J's 5, and then maybe even going as low as 4. But I'll stick with the 6. It's I don't know if it's eminently watchable, but like Dirty J was saying, I think you could watch this multiple times and kind of get a little bit more out of it each different time and kind of just at least appreciate different nuances as you spend more time with these characters. I don't know if it's going to get you to like the main character more or less, but I think you might appreciate maybe some of the side characters or some of the interesting things that do happen. But overall, it's a pretty unimpressive outing. It's a lot of wasted opportunity. This could have been a lot better.
Yeah, and I think we had brought up before that, like Napoleon, all the characters are standout, and in this one, it's sort of like he's running out of ideas on how to make the characters stand out, like the quirkiness be like interesting. Yeah. Like a lot of these characters aren't going to be memorable, not like Napoleon, not like Uncle Rico, not like Kip, not like LaFonda.
Mm-hmm.
Rex.
Oh yeah, those guys are iconic. And
Yeah.
then he blew his wad in Napoleon Dynamite, and then he's got nothing left after that.
Yeah, but still pretty good, and you can definitely tell it's him. And that was another point I'd made, that, you know, even if someone does steal an idea, well, then they have that one idea. But if you have your own style and your own flavor, and it's like recognizable, then no one can take that from you. You can always come up with something new and better, and that you're associated with, or people can see it and go, oh, that's a Hess movie, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So,
unfortunately, yeah, if he can't make money on his movies, he's going to have a short career. Even if he does attract really interesting quality talent to his films. Yeah, he's got to find an audience, and sounds like he's not doing such a good job lately. Unfortunate.
yeah. Well, there's also a thing that, like, when Napoleon came out, it's like this new kind of quirky thing, new quirky style. And then he keeps going back to that well, but not quite as well. Well, not as well, going back to the well. So then the quirkiness becomes like that moment where the quirkiness was like different and fun is kind of wearing out. So it's like sort of this fad that's kind of dying, like fidget spinner style.
Yeah. Or it's like a band that has one kind of style, and then even they don't change over time. And then even like the individual band members like leave, and they're replaced by just like standard musician guys. So they just get slightly worse, even with their original style. They don't innovate at all, and they just keep getting worse. And they're like, yeah, okay, I've heard these guys before. I've heard their style. I'm not really interested in their latest albums.
Yeah, we're not saying he's done. We're just saying, like, maybe you got to do something else, or find a new niche, or reinvigorate it somehow. But
I'd say for him, I mean, I'd go back to trying to find unknowns. You know, people that will work for almost nothing, because apparently that's what his budget is these days, is almost nothing. And yeah, try and get some of that original Napoleon magic. I mean, I still think he needs to work on his plots, make him a little more engaging. But
yeah, this is just a series of things happen, and I don't know. Even the ideas we talked about in this episode, like it could have made it work more cohesively. Like, let's make the movie be meaningful, like the movie that's made within the movie, and have that be the thing that resolves it at the end. I think that would have made it better. Or having that resolve it, and then because of the post-dated, that be effect on it as well.
yeah, I like to have this criticism whenever I see a movie that is just a series of events. If you can remove a scene from a movie and not have it affect the end, then it's a bad movie. It's a bad plot. And there's a million. I bet you could point to any number of scenes in this film that you could just take out and have no effect on the end of the film.
Yeah. Well, and he needed it to be 90 minutes, right? That's like the standard.
That's feature length. You got it in order to get into the theaters. You got to have at least be 90 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So he probably had a little fluff in there.
Yeah.
Anyway. Well, hey, this
Adam Sandler can input a music video in the middle of his phenomenal masterpiece, Billy Madison. Then okay.
Yeah, he's got to get it at least 88 minutes or 87 or whatever.
No, and a couple more minutes with credits.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that this was almost a feature-length bonus content. So thank you, Robert, for being able to come back and come and do this, and being willing to do this. I always appreciate your take, and thank you for that. And Dirty J, thanks for coming back and for suggesting this one. It was a lot of fun. We gave it way more attention than it deserved, but it's still, it's a good time. And next week we're doing Hotel Rwanda. So, the good times are going to keep coming. We're going to talk about that cheerful flick with Jared Wall of Breaking Liberty.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that one. It's a dark time in human history, but apparently all is not as was revealed on the screen. I don't know.
Yeah, he wrote a really big article about the backstory and the preconditions to it with the countries, on the borders of Rwanda, and how they played a role into what was fomenting. And apparently what we're presented with in the film is just like this very factual but not truthful. Like, yes, this is what happened if you ignore everything else. So it'll be a good discussion, I think. And I think that in reading the article, which is on the Libertarian Institute, it's going to change how I view the movie. And I'm probably going to watch it tonight or Monday because we're recording on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch it soon here. I think I might even watch it today. But it's on, is that article? I saw it in Facebook, but where is it? Is it on the
Libertarian Institute? I can shoot the link to you.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Thank you, Dirty J. It's been fun. It's been nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being willing to come back and keep on being our fan. We could use them. So thank you. And we can also use more Patreon people. So hit us up at actualanarchy.com/Patreon. You get pre-show and post-show bonus content and a few other things. This one is just bonus for everyone. This is live on the YouTube page and Facebook right now. So go ahead and hit that subscribe and the bell icon and the like and the subscribe and the whatever else you do. And, check out the actual episode that we did, which was just me and Dirty J. actualanarchy.com/198 just came out today. And then listen to this after that, which I should have said way at the beginning, but, whatever. Anyway, we'll see you guys all on the next one. And I guess we'll say maximum freedom, everyone. Peace out.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
The Chipmunks. CHIPMUNK. We're the Chipmunks. Guaranteed to brighten your day. Do 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 do.